Gracie Spinks, Terry Harris, Emma and Letty Patterson, all killed by men they knew. Police chiefs say violence against women and girls is ingrained in society, an epidemic.
I don't think that any person should ever cry to put the key in the front of their door because they don't know what they're going to get.
Mary, not her real name, suffered more than 20 years of abuse by her ex-partner. He was convicted of assaulting their child, but not her.
It was my child who called the police, and on the first few visits they were very supportive, but it was dealt with as an isolated event. We're talking years of systematic abuse, attempted murder, GBH, the list is endless, child abuse, strangulation, and he got away with all of it, partially because it wasn't taken seriously enough.
But domestic abuse is linked to 1 in 6 homicides in England and Wales. Here in Essex, police knew they needed a better way of identifying the most dangerous abusers, other than looking at previous offences. AI was used to analyse domestic homicide data and revealed common behaviours which led to killings, like controlling behaviour and stalking. Detective Superintendent Matt Cornish created a threat to life database of those with a history of such behaviour.
Some of these have had 10, 12, 15 different victims within 3 years. We're looking at probably thousands of domestic abuse allegations or criminal offences that have been made against or made by them.
So at least several hundred victims?
Yes, there were 550 victims linked to 103 perpetrators.
We met 2 of the men police say posed the greatest risk.
The social services come into my property and sat there and told my partner bluntly, he will kill you. As ruthless as that sounds.
I see women being killed through domestics. That could have been my victim.
Have you got your phone on you?
Yeah.
This man we're calling Eddie is subject to a stalking protection order. We're not identifying him to protect the anonymity of the women who reported him to police.
Passwords remain the same, and your email address remains the same.
He's agreed to be strictly supervised by the domestic abuse team. Acting Detective Inspector Hayley Lambert's officers check on perpetrators daily and pay them unannounced visits.
We would want to know where they work, what vehicle they drive, who they associate with, where they frequent, all of that, to have a real understanding of their lifestyle and their type of offending and who else might be involved in that.
In return for being monitored and managed, perpetrators can get help.
It's never too late to change your behaviour.
A charity provides counselling, helping abusers understand the impact on their victims.
If you're abusive in your relationship,
get help.
Make a change.
Eddie has convictions for domestic abuse. Over the years, there have been almost 100 allegations against him.
A lot of mine was over the phone, malicious. I was horrible. I was making threats to her, to people that she was saying she was with to wind me up. I was ruthless, like I didn't care. But drugs played a part of it, my emotions played a part of it.
The work you've been doing with the police around your behaviour and your feelings, how has that helped you?
I learned to think more. My partner and me, we have a disagreement, I walk away, she calms down, or I think we both respect our relationship. My arrests compared to what my arrests have been in the last month speak volumes, so I think it's something like 97 investigations against me, and in the last 12 months there's been nothing.
Earlier in the programme, Eddie was charged with breaching his stalking protection order. He pleaded not guilty and will be up in court next year. Dave, not his real name, also breached his order and went back to prison last year.
I believe like jealousy, mental health, it was just obviously drugs, alcohol took effect, and like 5 years on, I don't touch a drink of alcohol. I've not touched drugs in four years.
Do you think you are less of a risk today?
I hope to believe I'm less of a risk with the stuff that I've worked on, the stuff I'm still working on now. I'm a lot calmer in myself. My mentality's changed.
Stay where you are.
It doesn't always work. This man was released from jail and immediately breached a restraining order. He was taken straight back to prison.
If they commit offences whilst they are engaged in that programme, we will deal with those offences. It's as simple as that. They don't get a free pass.
What would you say to those who query investing time and, I guess, significant amounts of money in men who may have offended against women?
I think ultimately we are trying to work with perpetrators to stop them abusing women and to stop them creating harm and hurting people. I find it really difficult to think of anything else that I want to spend my money on.
Essex Police don't claim to be creating model citizens, but in the last year they've seen 140 fewer repeat victims and hope they may have found a way to break the cycle of domestic abuse.
Well, I've been speaking to Deputy Chief Constable Maggie Blythe, who's the National Police Chiefs Council lead on violence against women and girls. And I began by asking her why she thought that violence against women and girls had gone up by 37% since 2018.
It's a huge volume of crime, and we're calling it an epidemic. We think there's many reasons for that. We have some confidence that women and girls are coming forward to report these crimes to us. This is 20% of reported crime into policing. Policing is dealing with this every day. On a level of the national threat that it is, we're taking our methodology from the way we approach counter-terror, the way we approach serious and organised crime, to have national coordination, to set standards through our National College of Policing, to look at training, to look at ensuring we have the right workforce in the police service to provide the right service to victims.
And once they have come forward to report, what confidence can they have in the police? Because, you know, hundreds of police officers across England and Wales are now under investigation for sexual domestic abuse themselves.
Because of the scale of what we're reporting today, 1 in 12 women in this country will be victims of these crimes. We think 1 in 20 of the population are perpetrators. So largely men, not always, but male perpetrators will be working in every organisation, and certainly we've found them in policing. We've been turning the stones, rooting out those officers that we don't think meet the standards of a police officer.
If you're treating it like terrorism, then you've got to put more money into it, haven't you? And, you know, how much money, how much more money? There's a spending review coming up. Make your pitch now to the government.
I've already had that conversation with new ministers into the new government. There is no doubt in my mind and in the mind of every police chief in this country that because of the level of threat that we're seeing, we have to properly resource it. We are aware that there will be a spending review coming up through government, and we are clear that we will continue to do what we need to do, but having that national coordination is needed.
We've reported extensively on deepfake online porn. How concerned are you about the scale of that at this stage?
One of the features of doing a threat assessment from policing, this is our judgment of the scale of a threat, is to look at emerging complexity, emerging new crime, and the online harm in terms of violence against women is something that's still we're at the early stages of understanding just the extent to which criminals can use this.
Well, recently, we reported on leading MPs being deepfaked, and they then called in the police. I spoke to the officer handling the investigation, and he basically said, well, there's not very much we can do. We're not going to be able to, you know, catch the perpetrator because they're probably overseas. Maybe true, but there wasn't that sort of drive to investigate.
There has to be a drive to investigate it, and we have to understand the awful impact that this has on women in positions of authority and women anywhere.
You're looking at huge backlogs in the courts, prisoners being released from jail early because there isn't the space for them. How would you describe the criminal justice system right now and how it's serving victims?
We know our prisons are near full to capacity. We know with the scale and the numbers of perpetrators there are out there that even if we were to arrest all and lock them up, that isn't going to be the right approach. One of the interesting features of our threat assessment is the age of perpetrators. We know that children and young people are drawn into being both victims and suspects of these types of crime, particularly online. It wouldn't be appropriate and right to criminalise all. The average age is 15, all young people at this stage. So we've got to have a different approach to how we're tackling these crime types.
Maggie Blythe, thanks very much.